Dear students, welcome to this lecture. Today our topic for deliberation is Ecology of Development Administration. The learning objectives of this lecture are: number first, understand the concept of the ecology of development administration and its analogy to ecological systems. Number second, discuss the essential features, merits, and limitations of ecological approach to the study of comparative public administration. Number third, examine the attributes of fused, prismatic, and diffracted societies, more particularly the prismatic system and its administrative subsystem, the Sala. Dear students, development and modernization of society and the efficiency of the government to a large extent depends on the capacity of the administrative system and its ability to make and implement policies and plans. Fredericks, who developed analytical models and approaches to study public administration in a comparative perspective, is a pioneer in this field and occupies a very prominent place in administrative model building. This interaction of environment with administration has been termed by him as ecology of administration. Ecology in public administration was primarily introduced by Professor John M. Goss, one of the earlier pioneers of public administration. In his introduced concepts, he emphasized that the public administration, including its development as well as its activities, were influenced by its setting or ecology. According to Goss, the plans, programs, policies, and designs of public administration is influenced by factors concerning the physical environment or ecology, and that any structure and living thing existing in a given area has an interrelationship with the surrounding environment. In practice, this concept means that when building a structure, an individual must plan all aspects of the construction, from the materials needed for the structure, the actual area where it will be constructed in relation to the people residing in the area and the physical environment existing. This concept also means understanding the impact of the structure to the social relationships of people in that area and what specific technologies are being used and how it influences and impacts the inhabitants of that environment. Ecology thus pertains to interrelationship of living organisms and their environment. Ecological approach to public administration thus includes elements of environment, the place, the individuals, the physical and social technology, as well as relationships of these elements. It is essential to note that Goss has translated ecology, the complex structure and connections with each other of living things that are in a specific area of the public administration project, into a lens by which to analyze the project's impact. Goss also viewed the ecological concept in a public administration as a means to devise a new and renewed institutional pattern for individuals. With such concepts, the ecological aspect of administration reflects a crucial role in understanding and directing the forceful change in public administration. A more sensitive and conscious approach to ecological factors allow the public administrators to provide a more appropriate response to challenges within and beyond their organization. If applied properly, this approach can serve as a diagnostic tool for the public administrator and can provide standards for evaluating impacts on an organization. Ecology can aid the practitioner in visualizing the major elements in the administrative process and provide a specific standard for measuring impact in an organization. For Gauss, merging public administration with the concept of ecology helps in establishing a more novel way of conducting things and is actually related to the concept of change. He believed in applied social science that through an ecological approach to public administration, the new and renewed institutional pattern could be devised for individuals living in an age of change. Ecology in public administration became a vital instrument for comprehending, directing, and modulating the forceful change in the public administration. Through this application, public administrator can be active in the wider ecological approach to make changes in strategic management and planning of public serving organizations. This practice is clearly manifested in the management of ecosystems. The fragility of ecosystems that are threatened by construction of buildings and other public administration projects are now systematically addressed using the principles laid out by Gauss. One aspect of this situation is the dwindling of some species brought about by the disturbance of their natural habitat and ecosystems. The gravity of the perceived threat of global warming has moved scientists and policymakers to recognize that sufficient measures to sustain ecosystems must be ensured by substituting the governmental jurisdiction as the major institutional level for implementation. The dominant aspect of resource management has been focused around property ownership or jurisdictional domain, which is mainly concepts that originated from the West. But now resource management is also organized around the parts of the whole ecosystems such as individual resources, wildlife, or commodities. Another factor that influences public projects from the point of view of ecology is the question of sustainability. The ecosystem approach confronts the political process by asserting a participatory process in which all interested key players are able to participate to achieve an effective and integrated ecosystem management, while recognizing the role of individual as a part of the ecosystem. Thus, in its simplest form, the concept of ecology of development administration refers to the assumption that the administration of a particular country in a certain period of time is largely a reflection of the pattern of interplay between cultural, psychological, and economic forces. Any attempt at understanding the administration of a country or at reforming it in order to be really effective has to take into account the relevant environmental, apparently non-administrative forces impinging on the administrative structure and administrative behavior. This approach to the study of administration is supposed to be necessary for a comprehensive grasp of the total reality of industrial as well as non or pre-industrial societies. Another important derivation of the ecological approach is that effective administrative development may, more often than not, require prior and simultaneous development of non-administrative sectors of the developing countries. A more thoroughgoing application of the ecological approach has been recently attempted by Professor Fred W. Riggs of the Indiana University in his publication Administration in Developing Countries, a Theory of Prismatic Society. In 1962, in his seminal article Trends in the Comparative Study of Public Administration, published in International Review of Administrative Sciences, Riggs had mentioned that comparative public administration was moving away from a state of being non-ecological to a state of being ecological. What he meant was that traditional studies of comparative public administration did not adequately take into account the reciprocal relationships between the administrative system and its environmental context. Dear students, let us study the premises under the ecological approach. There are 4 premises. Number first, an administrative system is a subsystem of the political system, and hence it is deeply influenced by the political executive, the legislature, the judiciary, political parties, pressure groups, and the election system of a country. Number second, an administrative system is impacted by the economic system, the social system, the cultural system, demographic structure, and mass psychology, which together forms its context. Number third, likewise, the administrative system directly or indirectly affects the functioning of political institutions, the economic system, the social system, the cultural system, the technological system, and mass psychology, all comprising its broader environment. Number 4, there is a constant dynamic relationship between an administrative system and its environment. Since the environments of various nations and culture have diversity at the comparative level, all administrative systems develop their own distinctive characteristics. The similarities and differences between an administrative system at the cross-national and cross-cultural levels can be appreciated only through the ecological approach. Dear students, now let us see the application of ecological approach. Fred Riggs' models of agraria, industria, fused, prismatic, and diffracted societies and their respective administrative systems are rooted in the ecological approach. Besides Riggs, there are other scholars who have analyzed administrative systems of various nations in an ecological context, although they may not have used the nomenclature of the ecological approach. Such scholars include Farrell Heddy, Ralph Brabenti, Milton Esman, Hansen, and Krishna K. Tumala. Dear students, let us study the merits of ecological approach. Number first, the ecological approach is constructed logically. It focuses on administrative reality in various contexts and environments. Number second, it has the intrinsic capacity of explaining the sources of similarities and differences among administrative systems working in different nations and cultures. Number third, the ecological approach signifies that administrative reforms in various countries ought to be given priorities that are useful for them. Number 4, it underlines that administrative reforms can be facilitated only when they attain the support of political, economic, and socio-cultural systems. Number 5, In the context of development administration, it is the ecological approach that helps in determining the direction of change in the administrative system and other systems comprising the environment. It posits a relationship between administrative development and development administration. Dear students, now let us have a look on the limitations of ecological approach. Number first, it is difficult to assess the nature and quantum of the impact of various environmental structures on an administrative system. Number second, it is also problematic to analyze the nature and extent of the influence exercised by an administrative system over its environment. Number third, it is difficult to be operationalized for empirical research. Nevertheless, the ecological approach has made a most visible impact on comparative administrative studies and has made us aware that one cannot ignore this perspective while trying to understand how and why administrative systems are characterized by certain similarities and differences. Dear students, let us now move to a discussion of the two prominent typologies of Fredericks that have used the general system, structural, functional, and ecological approaches. These two typologies are agraria and industria models. Inspired by Dwight Waldo, Fredericks utilized in an innovative manner the essential features of the general system approach, the structural, functional, and ecological approach, while developing a typology of models in his path-breaking article entitled Agraria and Industria Towards a Typology of Comparative Administration, published in 1957. In the agrarian industria models, Riggs used the ideal type of methodology, which has logically interrelated various important and relevant concepts and their relationships, and which are based on an imagination and extrapolation of societies that represent the total development of the characteristics of a particular model. Like Max Weber's models, Riggs models are ideal, typical, or pure in formulation and are not found in real life. It may, however, be pointed out that Riggs abstracted his agrarian model from the features of imperial China of ancient times, and likewise for Industria, he abstracted the features of modern United States of America. Normally, we can say that two-wire inductive models derived from the study of distinct historical societies. However, we should remember that ideal type models are not necessarily inductive or deductive. They have a methodology of their own. Let us now see the features of agraria model. The main features of an agrarian society were as: number first, man's status is based on his birth, parentage, or lineage. Number second, traditions are followed as the basis of functioning of an administrative system. These traditions favor particular privileged groups over the rest. Number third, there are structures that perform a large number of functions. They are multifunctional in nature. Number four, social groups at the local level are stable and there is very little movement from one social group to another. Thus, the status system is rigid and almost closed. Number five, occupations in this society have very little specialization. Number six, various groups in the agrarian society have specific tasks defined by traditions. This leads to rigidity in their classification in social hierarchy that is based on conventional stratification. Dear students, now let us see the different features of industrial model or industrial society. An industrial society has following features. Number first, there is universalism and equity in the application of rules in society. No special privileges are granted to any particular section of society. Number second, structures are specialized in their nature. They perform tasks particularly related to their own spatial sphere. Number third, progress of a person in society and the administrative system is decided on merit and achievement as against birth in the agraria. Number four, the occupational system is well developed with its own norms and rules. There is no interference of any outside structure in the conduct of occupational roles. Number five, the class system in society is not rigid or based on any conventional social hierarchy. Instead, it is based on a generalized pattern of occupational achievement. Number six, associations in society are not based on rigidity or birth. Instead, they are functionally specialized and based on achievement. The agraria industrial typology paved the way for an exciting debate on the need for innovative conceptual constructs for studying the developing as well as developed societies and countries. However, within 2 years, Riggs himself abandoned these two models and created a new typology of fused, prismatic, and diffracted societies. What were the limitations of agraria industrial typology? Briefly, these limitations are: number first, the polar types of agrarian and industrial societies were not helpful in studying traditional societies, which were neither totally agrarian nor totally industrial. This limitation led to the creation of a fresh middle category of transitia that was considered useful for studying transitional societies. However, compared to the categories of agrarian and industrial, this new model of transitia was less developed and therefore it could not sufficiently explain the nature of societies and their administrative system in developing countries. Number second, critics argued that the categories of agraria and industria did not explain the socio-cultural reality for in an industrial society. There were always present a few features of agraria. In other words, most societies were mixed societies, while the Riggsian typology could not explain their functioning. Number third, Riggs models of agraria and industria assumed that there is only one way movement of societies, that all agrarian societies move towards industrial state, since becoming an industria was the preferred goal. This reflected a bias in favor of developed industrial societies. The above limitations were responsible for abandoning the agrarian industrial typologies. Nevertheless, it led to a fresh thinking on the nature of models that could be constructed to understand better administrative systems and their external environment in developing countries. And thus, a new typology of fused, prismatic diffracted societies was designed, which in many ways overcame the limitations of agraria industria typology. Dear students, now let us have a brief discussion about fused, prismatic and diffracted societies. Riggs has classified societies under his revised typology on the basis of the level of differentiation and the level of integration. Riggs does not use the term developing or developed nations or societies in his fused, prismatic and diffracted typology. He is of the view that the term developed or developing nations are too general and do not reflect his notion of classifying societies on the basis of differentiation integration relationship. Fused society. A fused society has the following features. It is a traditional society where old structures exist. Most structures are multifunctional. That is, one structure performs a large number of functions. Status and privileges in society are determined by birth or traditional status. Certain specific groups in society gain preferred treatment and status in society. There is a very low mobility in terms of status and occupations. The social structure and occupations are rigid since they are based on birth and time-honored conventions. Now, looking towards the diffracted society, it has following features. Number first, it has a very high level of specialization of structures and functions. Number second, there is also a high level of integration in these societies. Thus, there is hardly any gap existing between the levels of specialization and integration. Number third, there is equity among social groups with no group enjoying special preferences and privileges. Number four, there is considerable mobility in status and occupations. People can move from one occupation to the other. Number five, progress in the socio-economic system is based on merit and performance. The administrative system functioning in diffracted society is called bureau. The characteristics of which are similar to those of a diffracted society. Now, having a look on prismatic society. In between the two categories of fused and diffracted societies are prismatic societies that have following features. Number first, selectivism. This is an intermediate category between universalism and particularism. Under a prismatic system, certain groups, though large in number than in a fused society, gain precedence over the less privileged groups. Number second, attainment. This is an intermediate category between ascription and achievement, implying that in a prismatic society, merit as well as traditional status that is based on birth, caste, etc. determine the movement of a person to a higher level. Number third, polyfunctionalism. This is an intermediate category between functional specification and functional diffuseness. It implies that in a prismatic society, the level of specialization is much larger than found in a fused society, but less than what is prevalent in diffracted societies. The administrative system of a prismatic system is called sala, meaning a room or office in Spanish language. It may be mentioned once again that even though a prismatic society has not been termed as developing society, it is assumed throughout the Riggsian analysis that most developing countries share the features of a prismatic society. Let us look at the main features of prismatic society and its administrative system, the Sala. These features can be interpreted as the characteristics of developing or transitional societies and their administrative systems. Number first, heterogeneity. Heterogeneity means diversity. In a prismatic society, there is coexistence of the features of fused as well as diffracted societies. There are in this society traditional as well as modern systems, practices, viewpoints, norms, and behavioral patterns coexisting. There are metropolitan towns and rural areas, Western style departmental stores and small village shops, large companies as well as small cooperative societies and cottage industries run by families, giant universities as well as one teacher schools, and multi-speciality large hospitals and one physician Ayurveda or Unani clinics. Such diversity can also be seen in the simultaneous existence of financial institutions such as CB and village money lenders, multinational corporations and village patwaris, and old manual typewriters along with sophisticated information technology. Number second, formalism. In prismatic societies, there is a wide gap existing between laws and their implementation, promises made by leaders and their execution and plans, and their implementation. While government programs are meant to benefit all citizens or specific groups, there is partiality seen in granting such benefits. Those who pay bribe or are in friendship with powerful leaders or administrators or are themselves socially and economically influential grab a major chunk of benefits. The Sala officials may also take advantage of this situation and receive illegal income through unethical practices. Riggs observes that in prismatic societies, a large number of administrative reforms committees and commissions are appointed for improving the performance and behavior of the Sala. Yet, their recommendations are rarely accepted by the government, and even when these recommendations are accepted, they are rarely executed faithfully. Thus, the impact of administrative reforms remain only superficial. Overlapping. In a prismatic society, new and modern structures are designed to perform important socio-economic functions. But along with them, traditional structures continue to exercise an overlapping influence on the dynamics of such functions. Likewise, old traditional values and modern objective and rational values overlap with each other. Thus, one function may be performed by more than one structure. Some of these structures are formal, others are informal. Riggs has used the ecological studies in terms of both the developing and the developed societies. Initially, he dealt with agraria industria model and later he replaced it with fused, prismatic and diffracted Sala model as only ideal type construct and may not portray the reality of the social or administrative systems of developing countries. it may be pointed out that all features of prismatic societies may not apply to all developing nations. There is no uniformity in the level of prismatism existing among all nations. Some are more prismatic while others may be less prismatic. There is no society that is totally prismatic. So, dear students, that is all for today. I hope you enjoyed learning about ecology of development administration. I will see you soon with another lecture on development administration. Till then, take care and happy learning. Thank you.